What is up, down, and sideways, you truly beautiful individuals? It is another episode of League on Lock. Eric and Mark here with you as we dive in. We're not dipping our toes. We're head first plunging in to playoff action. The LCK, the first one to get things underway. Well, technically, the LCP has already started, but the LCK of the Big Four, first to get underway. And it's, of course, first seeded Bro from the Rise group against 6 series losing streak, bottom of the Legends group, KT Rolster. And these guys understood the assignment because this is a certified stamp it and ship it banger as we go right to Silver Scrapes to this 5th game. And I feel like it's been a while since we actually had some spicy, fearless action. And we get the Zed jungle for Gideon in this one. And I'll tell you right now, not much of an impact with that pick.
No, it's feast or famine, and it was feasting time in this one for the Zed, unfortunately. And it's one of those series that plays out in the fashion with Bro going up 2-1. You're thinking, okay, is this simply just going to be the last, whimpering whisper of KT this year type of situation, or whether this was about the story, the triumph, the surging of the Bros from this Rise group. But it wasn't the story, because we get that win for KT, pushing us to that Silver Scrapes. And in that one, what a debacle this 5th and final game even was itself, when you're going through the advantage that gets over to KT early, then the power and the Elder Dragon that goes in the hands of trying to get it for the Bros. Unfortunately for them, quite a short timer in that little bit of time where they were in the base trying to close this thing out. And it was the caster curse is how I'm going to call it, because they were just talking about how they're taking their time, they're being cautious, they're being very careful on picking that moment to go in and try and push for it. And they chose the wrong moment to go in for it, and it ends up with the failed base push, and it is now KT that controls the destiny and moves on in this upper part of the bracket.
Yeah, I mean, the caster curse first kind of coming, they get the Elder and already going, the Bros, right? Advancing through, what a way to do it. And of course, doesn't end up being true, down to a single Nexus turret. And the Nexus itself actually kind of the MVP in this last fight, as Jiwoo, who is the main character of this entire Game 5, is able to dash over the Nexus to survive. They can't pick him off. Teddy's and Fountain Laser, sure, but the Cassante out of Perfect. By the way, Cassante being in Game 5 is crazy that he's still available. And Perfect has a fantastic game on it. But even before the Elder, I feel like the pivotal point in this game is the classic denying Soul or going for Baron. As the Bros found a couple advantages, they go for Baron. But ultimately, KT gets this Chemtech Soul, which is probably why they're winning these late team fights, because nobody can kill the Cassante or Trundle.
Yeah, it's one that I understand. When you're having to make that decision, you're already in a pickle. You're already in not the best of scenarios that you could find yourself in, where you have to figure out what is the trade-off, what is the opportunity cost that we are accepting here. And it still always comes out that it's the losing option when you go with Baron in almost any situation like that, unless you're ending the game off of that Baron. Then you can find a way to make that be the value. It never comes through, and it's just the tough pickle that you were in that spot to try and make that choice. But this is a series where I think you can take away the step-aways of this being kind of, it took a while, but KT finally wakes up in this series. You're seeing the other aspects of the KT squad be why you're getting through this. Or you can look at the Bros and you can say they took advantage. They came out of the gates hot, kept that surge streak rolling until the momentum wasn't theirs anymore. And then it became the struggle. It became the chaos that is the Rise group compared to being in that Legends territory.
And you could for sure feel the tentativeness, nervousness, I think, out of the Bros when they are pushing that final fight in KT's base. They're so close to advancing, not just to the next round, but right into playoffs with the big boys. Obviously, they will still have another opportunity because they were that first seed. They'll play the winner of the next matchup. But how about this for your first series win as a starter as Jiwoo? He's lost every single time coming in, and you bookend this series first with the MF Game 1, where you get an official pentakill, have a fantastic game, and then the Zeri, who again was the protect the president in this 5th game, and you play the final team fight out nicely. So happy for Jiwoo to have a series like this when it matters most.
I don't know what the secret service they've got over there for Jiwoo. It's
Pretty
not
good.
a very good. Well, I don't think it's very good because they weren't really protecting the president all that much until that final moment, and it's really not anybody protecting the president. It's the president himself keeping him safe.
With the cat on his back. The cat did a good job. You don't have to do much,
Yeah.
but...
Okay, I can agree on that part of it for sure there, but this is one of the it's a series you have to build off of if you are KT Rolster at this point. And again, how much can you really decipher out of this series that you can build off of, and with whatever, again, this short turnaround that you're going to have at some point, you're going to have to look through that if you are KT. And I think that the big one for me, though, more so is the takeaway, is the missed opportunity for the Bros in this situation. Because I think that this is one of those ones where, again, the winner of this, they set themselves up real pretty. You put yourself right away towards that final situation, and you're giving yourself, of course, the best, most logical option to go through and continue that playoff journey. For the Bros, now you got to wait for the winner of the next matchup. And I think, again, when you do look at that next matchup, I'm thinking either one of those squads more than can put the performance up on the day to challenge a Bro that, again, who knows exactly, are you going to get the first 3 games of Bro, or are you going to get the last 2 games of Bro within this series type of situation? On top of, I'll tell you what, I'm buying. I'm smelling the noodles cooking in the kitchen. I'm all in this lower, early whatever part of this playoff scenario in the LCK. I'm all in on a Nongshim run from this spot.
Let's not forget those 3 Rise teams. They had the same score. They were all 10 and 16. They were only separated by the overall game score. So incredibly evenly matched, even though Bro are the top seeds coming in. So KT, as we say, back into playoffs with the rest of their legend guys. Bro waiting for Nongshim versus BNK. And the story of having Nongshim versus BFX have this elimination match, it's the forgotten story now that Diablo's going up against his former team. We're still waiting for Scout and Kigan to level up. So as hype a second round or first rounded play-ins that you could possibly have.
Coming off the backs of the 5-game banger, which again, talk about whatever you want on both sides of Bro and KT. 5 games like that with, again, stakes on the line, sign me up for it. I'm all aboard for that one. And then you're following it up here again as you laid out kind of the drama, the little trade war action that we've had going on in the LCK. And I think none more really impactful than this one when you're looking at both of these squads and the reactions on either side of it. Gonna be an interesting pickle in this one, but I'm sticking with that Nongshim prediction. I'm telling you, I think that this is one of those squads where they haven't hit their peak, and if they hit their peak within these series against competition like this, there's no reason why I can't see them climbing on out of this position and getting themselves that opportunity against either one of a T1 or a DK.
And I feel like what the peak is for Nongshim is punching above that weight to top 4 in the LCK. That's what it was when Diablo went over. Even before he was there, this Scout King and Lahen's roster, that was kind of the expectation. Obviously haven't gotten close to that yet, but do or die time now for them to reach that. And when we zoom out a little bit to look at this playoff picture as a whole, obviously, again, this is just the play-in stage, and this is a very different format for Worlds qualification than years past. There's no gauntlet. There's no regional finals that are going to be happening. All the qualifying will be through this super double elim playoff bracket. Hanwha has already clinched a spot at Worlds, so it doesn't really matter how their playoff run rolls out. But for the other big dogs of D plus T1 Gen G, it seems easy to say locked in. It's going to be those 3 that are going, but which of those 3 is the most likely to snap for you, Mark? Even if it's not that likely, and I got a hunch it's not going to be Gen G that you say.
No, you'd have to really be fishing to find a way to say that it would be Gen G in that situation. I think the more odds-on one for a lot of people is, of course, going to be DK. You can go through various questions about the lineup, about whether you are getting that peak level of performance from enough members on the day to be that difference when you were talking about that peak territory of the LCK and talking about teams like a Gen G, like Hanwha Life, where you're already having to contend with. I think a DK option is certainly one that you'd be looking at, but also you could certainly play the angle, and not going to be mine as the T1 fan, but I'd hear someone out if they would say T1 in that situation, and that would simply, I think, be someone banking off of that whatever time here, this week and a half that T1 is going to have before things ramp up for them, and they're going to have to really focus down. Whether they've fixed or gotten to the root of the problems of why they weren't able to perform at that ultimate level, at the level that has to be at to be one of these top teams in the LCK. And I think that there's reason to question if they are going to get there against the competition that they have. But I think you can also very easily get hit back with an answer that goes, well, let's look at the history of this organization, of these individual players, and question whether they truly can get it done in these big situations, in these pressure moments. And frankly, you'll find out that they have gotten it done.
Yeah, and I think that's really the two angles you take. If you're hyper focused in on split 3 specifically, D plus, you feel more confident in being a squad that will represent. But if you are, of course, looking at the history of a 3-time in a row champion, world champion organization in T1, hard pressed to go against them. But it's not like when it's so contested in the top 4 and you see, okay, T1 or D plus, not likely, but will be underdogs against Gen G or Hanwha. Not surprising if they lose that. Then all of a sudden, you're one bad series away from not going to Worlds if you match up against a roaring Nongshim, like you mentioned, or KT gets touched by the heavens and plays super well.
And you know, if for T1 as well, kind of if you're looking for that bounce back or what could change, well, unfortunately, not the best of news because Coma is not back with the team or the organization yet. He's still on his leave of absence. So this is one of those ones where it's still Tom operating as that head coach. And not that Tom isn't a good head coach or able to facilitate the drafts properly with the players, but I think that's one of those ones where if Coma has come back and that type of presence, that as well in the mental strategy, I think that would be one of those angles that you could feel more certain in a T1 resurgence or bounce back in this type of angle. But I think that's the spot that we're in right now with T1, with DK having done enough that I think it is a very legitimate question and personal choice on whether you are identifying one or the other as kind of that squad that is on the danger of the outside looking in when you're talking about that top picture and Worlds qualification spots in the LCK.
Other side of things, other end of that spectrum, going as that first seed to the World Championship, D plus or T1 could 100% level up. Still seems more unlikely as T1 or Gen G and Hanwha feel like the big dogs to get there. It felt like Gen G was trending back into that dominant trajectory. If you had to pick a favorite in playoffs, I assume it's between Gen G and Han.
Yeah, and this is one of those ones where I'd love the confidence and answer to be able to say that it's going to be Hanwha Life holding on to things. I can't. I just can't. I think the Gen G monster has finally arrived this year, and in the form that they are able to play in, no distractions, ruler, tax evasion, whatever. It's all off the board, and it is just League of Legends, and it's just, can you do the job? And I think that this 5-man roster is the best option to get the job done and take that #1 spot for the LCK.
And, you know, we're still waiting for Gen G since the LCK Cup era where they were, I forgot that was even the name of it, where they have won something this split. Obviously, we're used to them winning everything up to World, so it's been a very different path. And I do feel like if they turn it on here, dominant, have a playoff win, that you'll still be equally terrified of them at Worlds. But definitely either Gen G or Hanwha, I'd be surprised if they are not at least in the finals or one of the ones taking home the trophy in the LCK. Couple days away, or like 24 hours away from LPL playoffs, also heating up, and we know this one is very much a marathon, not a sprint. Gonna have to wait about 10 days before you see BLG or AL back on the Rift, which is shorter, honestly, than some of the bye weeks that top seeds have had in recent years in the LPL. But I think the question for the LPL is not the four-headed beast at the top like the LCK. It's who is going to be the actual rival to BLG in playoffs. There's been a revolving door of teams you've talked about throughout the regular season. I still, based on how the regular season ended, am saying JDG reached that potential that we saw way back in Split 1 and are the ones pushing BLG at the very least to the brink in these playoffs.
And I'm going to agree with you because I think no matter where you sit amongst the LPL fandom, that's the most exciting option. Is JDG rising up like this? And they'll pretty much, outside of, the miracle moment for WE, probably the only team that has truly been a thorn in the side of BLG this year and has been one of the ones to show that they can push them as much as anybody else in these series that they go through. I'm hoping that it is going to be the JDG team that is able to do that and has the JDG team that we have seen over the last 2 weeks or so that does show up and is able to challenge in that type of way. Now, I think it is something that is to talk about. One, let's take a quick little elbow jab over at the LEC because even taking a break like this for the top seeds in the LPL, still not as long as just any regular team is waiting for playoffs in the LEC in some past years.
It's not a break for everyone. You have to earn the break by finishing top 2.
Exactly. So like that in the LPL. But I will say, of all the teams, I think BLG is very grateful to at least have maybe a bit more of an extended break than they're used to in the LPL type of thing. And whether that's going to be sorting through whatever it is in the top side or just more time for Wenbo to heal up and get some adamantanium, whatever, injected into his wrist like Wolverine, find a way to get out there. But I think that is maybe kind of the best option for BLG here, as opposed to looking at, again, what is going to happen in the meantime. And that is going to be all this action between the rest of these LPL playoff teams. And I'm telling you, once the playoff starts kicking in, once the stakes are raised a little bit more and everyone's attention and motivation is rised up a little bit more, these series start to mean more and you start to gain more from them individually, momentum, emotion, whatever it is. It all adds up to performance on the end of the day and improvement. And that would be the one thing, if you are a squad like BLG, if you don't sort out your own instability and issues or whatever cloudiness in the top side, that you could be caught by one of those squads leveling up, earning themselves a little bit extra steam here throughout these LPL playoffs.
Yeah, and the LPL, this format, they do have the gauntlet still, different than the LCK, and I believe it's 2 seeds will be going from there. So it's the winner of the playoffs automatically goes to the first seed, second seed, championship points, and then the other 2 decided in that gauntlet. And to even get to the gauntlet, going to be a long journey for some of the dark horses. Obviously, play-ins are kicking off with NIP and IG down there matching up against the bottom of those Nirvana groups, EDG versus NIP, Thunder Talk versus IG, and the 2 Nirvana guys are probably favorites there, but they have such a long journey. There's no even second chance for them. They're right into losers bracket, even if they qualify. So they're already on 0 lives left for this entire bracket push. We know we've seen dark horses in the past in the LPL. Are we feeling a little bit more magic again with someone else?
Oh yeah, we're feeling it, Mr. Krabs, and we're feeling it with both of the squad rising on up. I'm calling it right now. NIP and IG, I think both of them do take it at least in these first round or 2. I can certainly see them challenging the squads that they will be playing, and squads like EDG, like a Thunder Talk, are so very much so vulnerable to squads like IG and NIP. As you laid out, though, it's going to be a long journey. It's a very long trip. I hope you have stopped into the bathroom before we're getting in the car, because this one, there's no pullover stops. It is all the way to the destination, or you're going back home. That's how it is for both of these squads at this point. And I think when you look at both of them, I think that does maybe favor a squad like IG a little bit more. You get into kind of your mojo, your swing of things here in playoffs, and you just keep it on rolling, because you're going to have that, again, unless everything goes totally spotless in these playoffs, you're going to roll through that gauntlet run. And that's going to be the importance, the big one for you. And you got to stay locked into that type of performance. So that's what I'm looking at for me. And I think the veterans on the IG team are going to be how you're able to get that one through. More so for me than looking at the NIP squad.
Yeah, I feel like the Shy is a guy who, throughout the regular season, it's the crappy posture. He's sitting like this playing, and then playoffs come in, and the gamer shift up. He locks in, and I'm excited to see that. But yeah, 6 best of 5s for either of these squads if they wanted to go all the way to finals. They don't need to go all the way to finals to get enough points to at least qualify for this gauntlet, but even in this opening round, a top esports versus LGD matchup, I'm sweating. If I'm top esports and, we both believe in JDG, so I'm sweating the WE one less, but I'm not going to be shocked here if LGD beats top esports in round 1.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important that, again, talking about the squads like IG, like an NIP, and feeling the way that we do about them, and then looking at, again, even outside of talking about EDG or Thunder Talk, you move on up that ladder to the WEs, your top esports, your LGDs, and even them, you're still looking at it with somewhat of a question mark. And for a squad like top esports, who has, again, those aspirations every single year to be a representative on that international stage, to try and keep pushing further, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that right here, right now, with this type of form and what, again, lurks beneath them in that dark horse category of the LPL playoffs. And frankly, what's right in front of you in the matchup that you're going to be having, as you talked about with LGD.
More than maybe any other league in the world, the LPL playoffs versus regular season truly feel like 2 entirely different splits because of how many games there are, how many teams are involved, obviously with the bigger league, and the mingling of these 2 groups. So it doesn't matter what happened the last 2 months, the next 3 weeks are where your entire season is defined in the LPL. But that is it today for Liga Unlocked. My name is Eric, here with Mark with you guys. As always, thanks for hanging out, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.